Subscribe and like this video, more interesting revenge stories of elderly people coming soon.
My name is Joyce. And no, it's not a pseudonym. It's my real name, which now sounds like a random word lost among 1,000 others. I'm 73. I'm a former person. Once a businessman, a leader, a voice in the room who stopped arguments with a single word. And today I'm a shadow in my own life. I live in a house on the outskirts of town. It's old, like me, but it's still going strong. Painted doors, a tidy yard, a kettle that hums every evening, as if someone is still expecting guests. But there are no guests. My children are successful, as they say. Houses in the countryside, shiny cars, photo shoots at sunset with the next victories of life. They communicate with me as with an employee who has exhausted his resource. My granddaughter says, "Hello, Grandpa," but her eyes look away. My grandson reluctantly shows me some photos on his phone, as if he's carrying out a communication plan. A store? I'm transparent there. Try asking the saleswoman to wrap the butter more carefully, and she'll do it as if you're just distracting her from life. In the hospital, they talk to me loudly, like I'm an idiot, with the same indulgence with which they give a puppy a bowl. Every morning, I wake up at 5:12. Not because I can't sleep, but I've just managed to sleep through everything in this life. Tea with bergamot. The same blanket on my lap. The TV off, because the news has become uninformative even to the ear. A diary in which I first wrote down my thoughts. Now observations. Dates. Names. Words. And here, in the shadowed heart of the day, when the sun is shining through the old curtains, I feel fire. Still weak. But it's not going out. People think I've broken down. They confuse silence with consent. But silence is my download. It is not the end. It is the pause before the symphony. I am silent, but I no longer forgive. I often think, I wonder if they even imagine who I was. At least one of them remembers? Or maybe in their minds I immediately appeared gray-haired, weak, with a faded plait on my knees? No, I was a force. Not a force in my fist, in my decision. In the ability to take responsibility when everyone else was hiding behind excuses. I started with scrap metal. I flew on business trips on buses. I worked in the cold, when my fingers twitched with pain, and there was no one to tell me how difficult it was. In the 90s, I collected a business from dust and ashes. Loans with interest, which today seem fictional. Partners? Betrayed. One stole a warehouse. And well, I didn't look for a scream. I waited. A year and a half later, he himself came, like a puppy dog, asking to get a little lift. I gave, but I wrote it down. I saved. When my wife was sick, I sold part of the company to pay for treatment. When my son lost his job, I arranged for him to stay with friends of mine, just in case he fell into the abyss. When my daughter wanted to go to school, I borrowed money to secure the house. She didn't ask where I got the money. She just left. And she hasn't asked yet. I held the sky above their heads. And now I'm a shadow. An empty number on the phone. A voice that doesn't get answered. My grandson is 22. He laughs when I remember offline meetings, paper documents, a time when a man's word had more weight than a contract. But it was these outdated things, honor, discipline, strategy, that made me who I was. I was a samurai in my time. Now I'm like a ghost. But the funniest thing is, a ghost sees more than the living. Because I remember. I remember when they couldn't walk yet, and I was already building a world for them. I remember every look of disdain, every "not now, Dad." Every "grandpa, you don't understand." They forgot who held the door open. And that was their biggest mistake. Little things. They are what destroy. Not tragedies. Not catastrophes. But what is repeated day after day, minutely, monotonously, like drops sharpening a stone. "Old man, wait in the hallway," the nurse says, without even looking up. What he understands, he doesn't hear, the doctor throws, as if I were a bag of bones, and not a person who studied financial analytics back when computers occupied rooms. I am silent, but in my head a name, a surname, a face, written down. I am standing near the pharmacy, holding a bag in my hands when it tears. Plastic, banal, but what falls out? Not pills, but dignity. People walk by. One woman looks up, as if she will help now, and abruptly turns away, pretending that I am not there. Grandson's laughter in my head. "Grandpa, you always dramatize everything." My son doesn't pick up the phone. 3 rings, answering machine. And so on for 5 days in a row. I'm not calling out of weakness. I just want to say that the bank has debited an extra payment from my account. I could figure it out. But I want him to remember. At least a little. He didn't remember. I asked my grandson to help me with the smartphone. In response, I heard, "Are you serious, Grandpa? It's elementary. What are you from a cave?" And laughter. Not angry, just indifferent. And that's scarier. I return home. I sit down at the table. I open my diary. 1320, Dr. Mikola Stokiv, Yinti. Mocking. 1640, grandson, humiliation, laughter, sarcasm. 1710, hospital number 3, floor 2, ward 12, nurse, Irina, refusal to contact. Pharmacist's name, I didn't read. Next time, clarify. I write without emotion. As before, a report for partners. I analyze. I record patterns. Behavior. Moments of breakdown. This is not depression. This is data collection. My pain is not evidence of weakness. This is accumulation. Like water standing behind a concrete dam. Quiet. Silent. But ready to sweep away everything when the time comes. No one notices that a spine of steel has appeared in me. That I don't ask for more. I study. I study how humanity falls. And I write it down, so that later I can make them see it with their own eyes. I never thought I would fall right in the middle of the street. My hands couldn't hold the packages. The bottles rolled along the cobblestones. Someone even stepped on one. It cracked. I was lying on the ground, unable to get up right away. It was as if time itself had paused. Some old man. What's he doing here? Nobody needs him. This word. Nobody. It entered me like a nail under a fingernail. Slowly. Painfully. Forever. I got up on my own. No one helped me. And that was the last thing I needed to see, the emptiness in their eyes. That evening, I didn't turn on the lights at home. I didn't make tea. I didn't wrap myself in a blanket. I sat down and just sat in the darkness. And then, I got up. For the first time, not slowly. I opened the closet. At the bottom, an old wooden case. Dusty. The safe opened the first time. My fingers remembered the combination. Inside was an old phone that had never been in contact with my family. A notebook with black pages. The one that had no thoughts, only obligations. A flash drive with copies of documents, testimonies, old letters. I blew off the dust, and I realized I was home again. Not in these walls, but in control. I called the first one, the person I had once pulled out of a dead hole. He picked up the phone right away, not even asking why I had disappeared from his life. He only said, "I've been waiting for this day. Tell me what you need to do." Then the second one, the one who had lost everything after the divorce, and I had bought his business without asking about the real numbers. "Joyce, are you real?" I remember everything. Everything. I opened the archive on my old laptop. My son's export licenses. My grandson's contracts, with fake reviews. The dating network is still alive. And they owe me. I used to rule like a grandmaster. Now I don't play. I'm destroying the board so they'll never think the rules are all that matter again. And the best part is, I don't have to say anything. I don't have to scare them. I just have to move the first piece. The pawn moves forward. And a game begins that they can't stop. I always believed that true power lies in silence. In the ability to act in a way that no one would know it was you. My son, the one who always answered calls, except mine, woke up one morning to the headline in the business media. Company involved in illegal government procurement? I just pressed send, and the algorithms did the rest. The evidence was real. It's just that no one had it all in one file before. He was fired for loss of reputation. The phone rang. I saw the name. I didn't answer. My grandson, my sarcastic, superficial heir who posted motivational quotes without knowing the meaning of any of them, was preparing a presentation for investors. But before it started, screenshots of his correspondence suddenly appeared on the main screen. Paid likes. Fake metrics. Collaboration with dead bots. And another file, from a video where he makes fun of me, drunk, among friends. The contract was broken. Investors fled. Reputation, zero. And me? I wasn't there. I had no official connection to this. I simply moved the dominoes. A crack began to form in the house. I felt it even before the call. It rang on the third day. "Dad, can we talk?" I looked at the screen. Silently. And I didn't press a button. Neighbors, who hadn't noticed before, began to greet me. They invited me for coffee, for a walk, to a business veterans council. I refused, politely, with a smile. They didn't know why they trembled when I just looked at them. But they trembled. Because a shadow can be felt even when it's not visible. I didn't destroy them. I just showed the truth. I let everyone look into the mirror that they hid from themselves. They don't need me as a grandfather. I have become their test. There is silence in my home. But now it is not loneliness. It is peace. Because I know, none of them will ever disdain my name again. Even if they don't say it out loud. The house is still the same. The walls are the same. The floor creaks, as before. The same tea. The plaid. The chair. The notebook. Only I am not the same anymore. They came. Without warning. Somewhat shyly. First the daughter. Then the son. The grandchildren stood in the doorway, like strangers under interrogation. Their eyes were confused. The silence was thick. No one said anything. They sat down one by one. Without words. As if in church before confession. I didn't ask why they were here. I didn't look into their eyes. I just sat in my chair. The opposite side of the room was cold, like a courtroom. They were expecting something from me. Anger, crying, morality. But I just watched. For a long time. Calmly. And each of them lowered their eyes. Because my gaze became a sentence. I didn't curse. I didn't shout, "Where have you been?" I didn't seek forgiveness. Because I don't forgive. I just changed the rules of the game. Now they know. I see. And that's enough. Before going to bed, I opened my diary. The last page. Revenge is not the ultimate goal. It's a means to show that I'm still here. That old age is not a collapse, but a stage when you see through everything. I didn't hurt anyone. I just took off my masks and made them see me without makeup. Old age is not a sentence. It's a tower. From it you can see everyone, and everyone as they are. I put an end to it. I closed the notebook. Let it lie. For someone. Maybe one day, for that same grandson. If something real ever awakens in him. The world thinks I'm old. But I'm not old. I'm complete. And that's my deepest victory.